Have you ever pondered what it truly takes to reclaim your strength, vitality, and independence as the years accumulate? Even when your body seems to resist every effort, if you've ever felt your energy waning, your movements growing sluggish, or your zest for life dimming, then the remarkable story of Grace Montgomery, a 101-year-old woman who defied age and weakness, is one you'll want to hear. This narrative isn't just about fitness or fleeting remedies. It's about rediscovering the confidence to live fully, no matter how many years you've walked this earth. Grace's journey, filled with simple, natural, and scientifically supported habits, transformed her from a place of muscle weakness and limited mobility to a life brimming with activity and fulfillment. In this first part, we'll explore the initial steps of her transformation, beginning with a surprising yet powerful technique that awakened her body and spirit, setting the stage for a profound renewal. Grace Montgomery wasn't always a beacon of resilience. At 101, she faced the challenges many associate with advanced age: muscles that refused to cooperate, joints that ached with every step, and a fatigue that seemed to settle deeper with each passing day. Yet despite these hurdles, Grace refused to surrender to the limitations her body imposed. She yearned for a way to move freely again, to feel the strength she once took for granted, and to embrace life with the enthusiasm of her younger years. Her story is a testament to the idea that age is not a barrier to vitality, provided you're willing to embrace change. The habits she adopted were not complex or costly. They were rooted in simplicity, drawing from both ancient wisdom and modern science. These practices didn't just restore her physical strength. They rekindled her spirit, proving that transformation is possible at any stage of life. The first habit that sparked Grace's journey was something as unassuming as dry brushing, a technique that seemed almost too simple to hold the promise of real change. It was a suggestion from an old therapist friend, someone who understood Grace's struggles intimately. "Grace," she said with quiet conviction, "before you turn to intense workouts or rely on medications, you need to awaken your muscles. Try dry brushing." At first, Grace was skeptical. The idea of using a natural bristle brush to gently massage her skin in dry strokes, always moving toward her heart, felt too rudimentary to make a difference. But something in her friend's words struck a chord, a flicker of hope amid her desperation for change. With nothing to lose, Grace decided to give it a try, unaware that this small decision would mark the beginning of a profound shift in her body and life. Dry brushing, as Grace soon discovered, was more than a superficial ritual. The gentle strokes stimulated blood circulation, delivering fresh oxygen and essential nutrients to her tired muscles. This increased flow wasn't just about physical nourishment, it also activated her lymphatic system, helping her body eliminate toxins that had accumulated over years, weighing her down and hindering her vitality. At first, the sensation was unfamiliar. The bristles felt rough against her skin, and Grace wondered if she was wasting her time. But she persisted, committing to the practice each morning. With every stroke, it was as if she were coaxing her muscles awake from a long, sluggish slumber, whispering to them that they could still move, still thrive. The changes were subtle at first, almost imperceptible. Grace noticed that the stiffness in her legs, which had made every step a battle, began to ease. Getting out of bed no longer required the same monumental effort. Her legs felt lighter, as if they were rediscovering their strength. According to research from the Journal of Aging Research, dry exfoliation can boost blood circulation by up to 25%, improving muscle oxygenation and aiding in toxin elimination. For Grace, these scientific benefits translated into tangible improvements. The pain that had once defined her mornings started to fade, and she could move with a newfound ease that she hadn't felt in years. But the impact of dry brushing went beyond the physical. As Grace dedicated a few quiet moments each morning to this practice, she began to feel a deeper connection to herself. It wasn't just about improving circulation or easing muscle stiffness. It was about reclaiming her body, caring for it in a way she hadn't done in a long time. Each stroke of the brush became a moment of self-care, a reminder that she was capable of nurturing her own vitality. This emotional and mental shift was as powerful as the physical changes. Grace felt a resurgence of confidence, a belief that she could still shape her future, no matter her age. The act of dry brushing wasn't just a mechanical routine, it was a tactile reminder of her body's wisdom. It awakened neuromuscular connections, which are critical as we age, helping Grace regain control over her movements. The Journal of Aging Research notes that such practices can enhance these connections, improving coordination and strength. For Grace, this meant more than just better mobility. It meant rediscovering the resilience that had always been within her, buried beneath years of neglect and frustration. She began to see her body not as a source of limitation, but as a vessel of potential, capable of remarkable renewal. As Grace continued her daily brushing, she noticed changes that went beyond her muscles. Her skin felt softer, more vibrant, as if it too were awakening. The process wasn't just about fighting the signs of aging, it was about embracing her body's capacity to heal. Each morning, as she moved the brush across her skin, she felt a quiet strength growing within her, a strength that wasn't just physical but emotional and spiritual. It was as if she were peeling away layers of doubt and fatigue, revealing the vibrant woman she had always been. This first habit set the tone for Grace's transformation. It wasn't about drastic measures or expensive treatments. It was about starting small, with a practice that honored her body's needs. Dry brushing became a symbol of her commitment to herself, a daily act of faith that she could reclaim her vitality. It was the first step in a journey that would lead her to rediscover not just her strength, but her joy in living. Grace's story reminds us that sometimes the simplest actions hold the greatest power, actions that, when done with intention, can awaken both body and soul. The beauty of Grace's approach was its accessibility. Dry brushing required no special equipment beyond a natural bristle brush, and it could be done in the comfort of her home. Yet its effects were profound, touching every aspect of her being. As she stood in her quiet mornings, brushing her skin with care, Grace wasn't just improving her circulation, she was rebuilding her confidence, step by step. She was proving to herself that age didn't define her potential, that her body could still respond to care and attention. This initial habit laid the foundation for the others that would follow, each building on the last to create a holistic transformation. Grace's journey wasn't about quick fixes. It was about consistency, about believing that small, intentional actions could lead to monumental change. The dry brushing technique, though simple, was a powerful reminder that healing begins with listening to your body, with giving it the care it deserves. For Grace, it was the spark that ignited her path to vitality, a path she would continue to walk with determination and hope. As we move forward in Grace's story, we'll explore the next habit that built on this foundation, a nourishing practice that fed her body from within, giving her the strength to keep pushing forward. But for now, let Grace's first step inspire you. A small, deliberate act of self-care that proved to be the key to unlocking a life of renewed energy and independence. Her journey shows us that transformation is possible, not through grand gestures, but through the quiet, consistent choices we make each day. Grace Montgomery's journey had begun with a spark, a simple dry brushing technique that awakened her muscles and rekindled her hope. But as she felt the first stirrings of renewed energy, Grace knew that surface-level care alone wouldn't sustain the transformation she craved. Her body needed nourishment, a way to rebuild its strength from the inside out. She longed to feel vibrant again, to move without the weight of fatigue that had settled into her bones over the years. It was at this pivotal moment that Grace discovered the second habit that would become a cornerstone of her recovery, a fortifying bone broth that restored her vitality in ways she never thought possible. This ancient remedy passed down through generations wasn't just food, it was medicine, a lifeline that fueled her body and spirit, proving that sometimes the simplest ingredients hold the power to heal. Grace's introduction to bone broth came from an unexpected source. Her granddaughter, a bright and passionate nutrition student who saw the potential for healing in this time-honored recipe. At first, Grace was hesitant. The idea of simmering bones for hours to create a healing elixir sounded like something from a bygone era, a folk remedy that couldn't possibly match the promise of modern medicine. But her granddaughter's enthusiasm was infectious, and Grace trusted her knowledge. "This isn't just soup, Grandma," she explained with conviction. "It's packed with collagen, minerals, and amino acids that your muscles and joints need to thrive." Those words planted a seed of curiosity in Grace's heart. She was ready to try anything that might bring her closer to the strength and independence she once knew. The process of making bone broth was a labor of love, one that Grace approached with care and intention. She gathered bones, rich with marrow and connective tissue, and simmered them slowly over 12 hours, sometimes longer, allowing the nutrients to seep into the liquid. She added garlic and ginger for their anti-inflammatory properties, and a pinch of salt to bring out the flavor. As the broth bubbled gently on the stove, the kitchen filled with a warm, comforting aroma that seemed to promise restoration. Grace couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation, as if each breath she took was already absorbing the nourishment her body craved. It was a ritual that connected her to generations past, a reminder that healing often lies in the wisdom of those who came before. At first, Grace didn't notice any dramatic changes. She sipped the broth daily, savoring its rich, hearty flavor, but wondered if it was truly making a difference. Patience, she reminded herself, had always been a virtue, and she was determined to give this practice a fair chance. Then after a few weeks, something remarkable began to happen. The fatigue that had once clung to her like a shadow started to lift. Her muscles, which had felt weak and unresponsive, began to regain their vigor. The stiffness in her joints, a constant companion for years, softened as if the broth were melting away the years of wear and tear. Grace felt a surge of energy that she hadn't experienced in decades, a lightness that made even the simplest tasks feel less daunting. The science behind bone broth supported what Grace was experiencing. Studies from the Journal of Clinical Nutrition highlight collagen's role in rebuilding muscle tissue and strengthening joints, while minerals like calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus are essential for bone health and muscle function. Amino acids, such as glycine and proline, aid in muscle regeneration, helping the body repair itself from the inside out. For Grace, whose body had been depleted by years of aging and inactivity, this broth was a powerhouse of nourishment. It wasn't just feeding her muscles, it was rebuilding her foundation, giving her the strength to move forward with confidence. As Grace continued to incorporate bone broth into her daily routine, she noticed changes that went beyond the physical. Her energy levels soared, allowing her to tackle tasks that had once felt insurmountable. She could walk to the kitchen without pausing to rest, stand for longer periods without discomfort, and even enjoy small outings with her family. These victories, though small to some, were monumental for Grace. They were proof that her body was responding, that it was capable of more than she had dared to hope. The broth wasn't just a source of nutrients, it was a symbol of her resilience, a reminder that healing was a journey of small, consistent steps. The emotional impact of this habit was just as profound. Preparing the broth became a meditative act for Grace, a time to reflect on her progress and reconnect with herself. As she stirred the pot, she thought about the generations of women who had come before her, nourishing their families with similar recipes. It gave her a sense of continuity, a feeling that she was part of something larger than herself. This connection to tradition grounded her, giving her the strength to keep going even on days when doubt crept in. The broth wasn't just food, it was a bridge to her past and a pathway to her future. Grace's granddaughter played a key role in guiding her through this process, sharing tips on how to enhance the broth's benefits. She suggested adding turmeric for its anti-inflammatory properties, or a splash of apple cider vinegar to draw out more minerals from the bones. Grace listened eagerly, grateful for the knowledge that was helping her reclaim her vitality. Each batch of broth became an experiment, a chance to learn more about what her body needed. She began to see food not just as sustenance, but as medicine, a way to heal and strengthen herself from within. The physical changes were undeniable, but what surprised Grace most was how the broth affected her spirit. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, a belief that she could shape her health and her future. For years she had felt sidelined by her body's limitations, but now she was taking an active role in her recovery. The broth gave her a sense of agency, a reminder that she had the power to nurture herself. It was a small act, but it carried immense weight, filling her with hope and determination. As the weeks turned into months, Grace's transformation became more apparent. Her muscles grew stronger, her joints more flexible, and her energy more consistent. She could feel the difference in her daily movements. Walking felt easier, standing felt steadier, and even climbing stairs no longer seemed like an impossible task. The broth had become a lifeline, a daily ritual that sustained her body and soul. It wasn't just about repairing muscle tissue or easing joint pain, it was about rediscovering the vitality that had always been within her, waiting to be unleashed. Grace's experience with bone broth taught her a valuable lesson. True healing comes from nourishing the body holistically. It wasn't enough to focus on exercise or external care. She needed to feed her muscles, joints, and spirit with the right ingredients. The broth, with its rich blend of collagen, minerals, and amino acids, was the perfect fuel for her recovery. It reminded her that sometimes the most powerful remedies are the ones that have been around for centuries, passed down through generations because they work. This second habit built on the foundation laid by dry brushing, taking Grace's transformation to a deeper level. It wasn't just about awakening her muscles, it was about giving them the strength to thrive. The broth became a symbol of her commitment to herself, a daily act of care that reinforced her belief in her own potential. As she sipped it each day, she felt her body responding, growing stronger and more resilient with every passing moment. Grace's journey with bone broth wasn't just about physical health, it was about reclaiming her life. It was about proving to herself that she could overcome the challenges of age and weakness, that she could live with the energy and enthusiasm she thought she had lost. The broth was a reminder that healing is a process, one that requires patience, intention, and a willingness to embrace the wisdom of the past. For Grace, it was the key to unlocking a new chapter in her life, one filled with strength, vitality, and joy. As we continue Grace's story in the next part, we'll explore how she took her recovery even further with a practice that transformed her muscle regeneration and emotional well-being. But for now, let Grace's experience with bone broth inspire you, a simple, nourishing habit that proved to be a powerful tool in her journey to reclaim her strength and independence. Her story shows us that the path to vitality is paved with small, intentional choices. Choices that, when made consistently, can lead to profound and lasting change. Grace Montgomery's transformation was well underway, her body responding to the gentle awakening of dry brushing and the deep nourishment of bone broth. She could feel strength returning to her muscles, a lightness in her step that hadn't been there in years. Yet, despite these encouraging changes, there were moments when fatigue lingered, a reminder that her recovery was not yet complete. Grace sensed that something was missing, a piece of the puzzle that would help her muscles heal faster and her energy sustain longer. It was during a routine visit to her doctor that she uncovered the third habit that would propel her journey forward. Deep breathing exercises, specifically the 4-7-8 method, which would regenerate her muscles and bring a newfound sense of peace to both her body and mind. This simple practice, rooted in the rhythm of her own breath, became a powerful tool in her quest to reclaim her vitality. Grace's doctor had noticed her progress, but also her occasional struggles with lingering soreness and sluggishness. With a knowing smile, he shared a surprising insight: her breathing, something she had taken for granted her entire life, might be holding her back. As people age, he explained, they often breathe more shallowly without realizing it, limiting the oxygen that reaches their muscles. Oxygen is the lifeblood of cellular repair, essential for muscle recovery and energy production. Without enough of it, Grace's body was struggling to keep up with her newfound activity, leaving her feeling tired even after rest. The doctor suggested deep breathing exercises, particularly the 4-7-8 method, as a way to flood her muscles with oxygen and accelerate her healing. It was a revelation that struck Grace with both curiosity and hope. She had never considered that something as fundamental as her breath could unlock such profound change. The 4-7-8 method was straightforward, yet it required focus and intention. Each morning, as the first light filtered through her curtains, Grace would sit quietly and begin. She inhaled deeply through her nose for a count of 4, feeling her lungs expand with fresh air. She held the breath for 7 counts, allowing her body to absorb the oxygen fully. Then she exhaled slowly through her mouth for 8 counts, releasing tension and fatigue with each breath. At first, the rhythm felt unfamiliar, almost awkward. Grace wasn't used to paying such close attention to her breathing. It was something she had always done without thought, but she trusted the process, committing to this daily ritual as she had with her other habits, eager to see where it would lead. In the beginning, Grace wasn't sure if the breathing exercises were making a difference. The act itself was calming, but she wondered if it could truly impact her physical health. Then, after just a few days, she began to notice subtle shifts. She woke up feeling lighter, less weighed down by the exhaustion that had once greeted her each morning. Her muscles, which had often felt sore after even mild activity, started to recover more quickly. The sluggishness that had plagued her began to fade, replaced by a steady energy that carried her through the day. It was as if her body was finally getting the fuel it needed, not just from food or movement, but from the very air she breathed. The 4-7-8 method was like a key, unlocking her body's ability to heal itself. Scientific research backed up what Grace was experiencing. Studies from the Journal of Applied Physiology show that deep breathing techniques, like the 4-7-8 method, increase muscle tissue oxygenation, speeding up recovery and reducing fatigue. Controlled breathing also activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural relaxation response, which lowers stress levels and improves sleep quality, both critical for healing. For Grace, these benefits were tangible. She noticed that she slept more soundly, waking up refreshed instead of groggy. Her muscles felt more responsive, as if they were finally getting the support they needed to rebuild. The breathing exercises weren't just helping her body, they were soothing her mind, giving her a sense of calm she hadn't realized she'd been missing. As Grace continued the practice, she found that deep breathing became more than a physical exercise. It was a moment of connection with herself. Each inhale felt like an invitation to embrace life. Each exhale a release of the doubts and fears that had held her back. She began to incorporate the 4-7-8 method into other parts of her day, before bed to unwind, during moments of stress to center herself, even while sitting in her garden to feel the world around her. The rhythm of her breath became a kind of meditation, a way to quiet her mind and focus on the present. It was a small act, but it carried immense power, helping Grace feel more alive, more grounded, more whole. The emotional impact of this habit was profound. For years, Grace had felt disconnected from her body, as if it were betraying her with every ache and limitation. But deep breathing brought her back to herself, reminding her that her body was still capable, still resilient. It wasn't just about oxygenating her muscles. It was about rediscovering her inner strength. Each breath was a reminder that she was in control, that she could nurture her body and mind in ways she hadn't thought possible. The 4-7-8 method gave her a sense of agency, a belief that she could shape her health and her future, no matter how many years she had lived. Grace's commitment to deep breathing also had practical benefits. She noticed that tasks that once left her winded, like walking to the mailbox or tending to her flowers, became easier. Her endurance improved, allowing her to stay active for longer periods without needing to rest. The soreness that had lingered after movement began to fade, replaced by a flexibility that made her feel years younger. It was as if her body was learning to work with her again, responding to the care she was giving it. The breathing exercises were a bridge between her physical and mental health, helping her feel stronger in every sense of the word. This habit wasn't about grand gestures or complex routines. It was about consistency, about showing up for herself each day. Grace found that the 4-7-8 method was easy to integrate into her life, requiring only a few minutes, but delivering results that lasted all day. It was a reminder that healing doesn't always come from big changes. Sometimes it's the small, intentional acts that make the biggest difference. For Grace, deep breathing was a lifeline, a way to keep her muscles regenerating and her spirit soaring, even when the challenges of age felt overwhelming. As Grace embraced this practice, she began to see her body in a new light. It wasn't just a collection of aches and limitations. It was a vessel of potential, capable of remarkable renewal. The 4-7-8 method helped her tap into that potential, giving her the energy and clarity to keep moving forward. It was a quiet revolution, one that transformed her from the inside out. Each breath was a step toward a stronger, more vibrant version of herself, a version she had always carried within but had lost sight of over the years. The deep breathing exercises also had a ripple effect on Grace's other habits. The increased oxygen flow complemented the benefits of dry brushing, helping her muscles recover faster from the stimulation. The calmness it brought enhanced the nourishment of bone broth, allowing her body to absorb nutrients more effectively. It was as if each habit was a piece of a larger puzzle, fitting together to create a picture of health and vitality. Grace's journey was teaching her that true healing is holistic, touching every aspect of who we are, body, mind, and soul. Grace's experience with deep breathing was a testament to the power of simplicity. It didn't require equipment, money, or even much time, just a willingness to pause and breathe with purpose. Yet its impact was undeniable, helping her overcome the fatigue that had once defined her days. It was a reminder that sometimes the most profound changes come from the things we overlook, the things we take for granted. For Grace, her breath became a source of strength, a tool to rebuild her body and reconnect with her spirit. As we move forward in Grace's story, we'll explore the next habit that helped her take her recovery to new heights. A surprising tool that not only supported her mobility, but also reactivated her strength in ways she never imagined. But for now, let Grace's experience with deep breathing inspire you, a simple, intentional practice that proved to be a cornerstone of her journey to reclaim her vitality. Her story shows us that the path to health is often found in the quiet moments, in the rhythms we create for ourselves each day. Grace Montgomery's journey had already woven a tapestry of transformation, with dry brushing awakening her muscles, bone broth nourishing her body, and deep breathing revitalizing her energy. Each habit had brought her closer to the strength and independence she thought she had lost. Yet Grace knew that to fully reclaim her vitality, she needed to address not just her physical health, but her connection to the world around her. She yearned to move with confidence, to feel grounded in her body, and to embrace life with a sense of freedom that age had dimmed. This longing led her to the final 3 habits, using a cane to reactivate her strength, nourishing her body with antioxidant-rich foods, and walking barefoot on natural surfaces. These practices, simple yet profound, completed her transformation, proving that true healing comes from harmonizing body, mind, and spirit with the earth itself. The 4th habit Grace adopted was as unexpected as it was empowering, using a cane not as a crutch, but as a tool to rebuild her muscle strength and mobility. At first, the idea seemed counterintuitive. Grace had always associated canes with limitation, a symbol of frailty she wasn't ready to accept. But during a conversation with a physical therapist, she learned that a cane could be much more than a support. It could engage her muscles, improve her posture, and help her move with confidence. Intrigued, Grace decided to explore this ancient technique, one used for centuries by cultures that understood the body's need for gentle, purposeful movement. She wasn't just looking for stability, she wanted to rediscover the strength that had defined her younger years. Grace began incorporating the cane into her daily routine with cautious optimism. She chose a sturdy wooden cane, its smooth handle fitting comfortably in her hand. At first, she used it simply to steady herself during short walks around her garden. But as she grew more comfortable, she followed her therapist's advice to engage her muscles actively. She pressed the cane into the ground with each step, feeling her arm and shoulder muscles contract. She adjusted her posture, standing taller and straighter, noticing how her core and back muscles responded. The cane wasn't just helping her balance, it was awakening muscles that had grown dormant, coaxing them back to life with every deliberate movement. The changes were subtle but undeniable. Grace noticed that her steps became more controlled, her balance more reliable. Tasks that had once felt risky, like navigating uneven ground or climbing a small step, no longer filled her with apprehension. The cane provided just enough support to let her move freely, knowing she was safe from falls or strain. According to physical therapy research, using a cane can engage stabilizer muscles in the arms, shoulders, and core, improving overall strength and coordination. For Grace, this meant more than just better mobility. It meant a return to confidence, a belief that she could trust her body again. Using the cane wasn't just about physical strength, it carried emotional weight. Grace had spent years feeling limited by her body, but the cane became a symbol of possibility. It wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a tool of empowerment, a reminder that she could adapt and thrive. Each walk with the cane felt like a small victory, a step toward reclaiming her independence. She began to see it not as a burden but as a partner in her journey, helping her rediscover the joy of movement. The cane transformed from a necessity into a source of strength, a testament to her resilience and determination. The 5th habit Grace embraced was a shift in her diet, focusing on antioxidant-rich foods and protein to fuel her recovery. Her granddaughter, ever the guide in Grace's journey, introduced her to the power of nutrition as a cornerstone of health. Your muscles need protection and repair, she explained, and the right foods can make all the difference. Grace learned that antioxidants combat oxidative stress and inflammation, which can weaken muscles over time, while protein provides the building blocks for repair and growth. Inspired, Grace set out to transform her meals, determined to give her body the nourishment it needed to keep healing. Grace's kitchen became a canvas of vibrant colors and flavors. She added quinoa, a complete protein, to her salads and soups, savoring its nutty texture. Berries, blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries became a daily treat, their antioxidant properties shielding her muscles from damage. She sprinkled pumpkin and chia seeds onto her yogurt, knowing their omega-3 fatty acids would reduce inflammation. Leafy greens like spinach and kale filled her plates, paired with fiber-rich chickpeas for sustained energy. Each meal was a conscious choice, a way to honor her body and support its transformation. Grace wasn't just eating, she was healing, one bite at a time. The results were remarkable. Grace's energy soared, carrying her through the day with a vigor she hadn't felt in years. Her muscles recovered faster after activity, allowing her to push herself further without pain. Even her skin glowed with new vitality, and her mind felt sharper, as if the fog of age had lifted. Studies confirm that antioxidants reduce muscle damage, while protein supports tissue repair, as noted in nutritional research. For Grace, these changes were more than scientific, they were personal. She felt alive, her body responding to the care she was giving it, proving that nutrition is as powerful as any medicine. The emotional impact of this habit was just as significant. Choosing nourishing foods gave Grace a sense of control over her health, a reminder that she could shape her future. Each meal was an act of self-care, a way to celebrate her body's potential. She began to see food not as a chore, but as a gift, a way to fuel her journey and honor the life she was rebuilding. This shift in perspective transformed her relationship with eating, making it a joyful part of her daily routine rather than a necessity. The sixth and final habit Grace adopted was perhaps the most grounding: walking barefoot on natural surfaces. She had always loved nature, but years of discomfort had kept her indoors, disconnected from the earth. One day, inspired by a documentary about the benefits of grounding, Grace decided to try walking barefoot in her backyard. She started on the soft grass, feeling the cool blades against her soles, then ventured to the smooth pebbles in her garden and the sandy shore of a nearby beach. The sensation was unfamiliar at first, but it stirred something deep within her, a sense of connection she hadn't realized she'd been missing. Walking barefoot wasn't just a sensory experience, it was a physical one. The uneven textures engaged the stabilizer muscles in her feet and ankles, strengthening them with each step. Grace noticed her balance improving, her steps growing steadier. According to research in podiatry, barefoot walking on natural surfaces enhances muscle activation and coordination, reducing the risk of falls. For Grace, this meant more than just physical stability. It meant freedom. She could walk without fear, trusting her body to carry her forward. The emotional and spiritual benefits were even more profound. Barefoot walking became a meditative practice, a way for Grace to quiet her mind and connect with the earth. Each step felt like a conversation with nature, a reminder that she was part of something larger. The cool grass, the warm sand, the firm pebbles all grounded her, filling her with peace and serenity. She felt present, alive, and deeply rooted in the moment. This connection wasn't just about her body, it was about her soul. A way to rediscover the joy of simply being. Grace's barefoot walks became a daily ritual, a time to reflect on her journey and celebrate her progress. She felt stronger, not just in her muscles, but in her spirit. The practice complemented her other habits, enhancing the circulation from dry brushing, the nourishment from bone broth, and the energy from deep breathing. It was as if each step tied her transformation together, creating a holistic sense of health. Grace's story shows us that healing isn't just about the body. It's about reconnecting with ourselves and the world around us. As we conclude Grace's story, her final habits remind us that vitality comes from harmonizing small, intentional acts. The cane, nutritious foods, and barefoot walking weren't just tools. They were bridges to a life of strength, confidence, and joy. Grace's journey proves that age is no barrier to transformation, that we can reclaim our health by listening to our bodies and embracing the wisdom of simple practices. Her story inspires us to take that first step, to believe in our potential, and to live fully, no matter where we are in life.